going on, Wolfpack Nation? We are here for another NC State Tuffy Talk episode here as we're going to be breaking down and recapping, first of all, the men's basketball season. Then part two, we're going to be doing women's basketball. But again, first one here, talking a little bit here about today about your 23-11 NC State men's basketball team that definitely had a lot of highs, a lot of lows, for sure. And obviously it was great to see us back in the NCAA tournament again for the first time since 2018. It was definitely a bummer to get sent out in the first round from Creighton. But again, we'll definitely kind of break that down piece by piece here. But kind of give me, Michael, your first, just kind of thoughts recapping the season. Are you happy with the season? Are you sad about how it went? Disappointed? Like, what's your kind of initial thoughts about the season as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, obviously disappointed. Anytime you immediately following the game, it's obviously going to be disappointed. But when you step back and look at it from where we were at the end of last year to making the tournament this year, I'd say it's a good season, not a great season. Definitely improved, obviously. The Keatts managing the portal last off season and seeing what that can turn into. That's kind of encouraging going into next year because we're, losing obviously Joyner and 99.9% Turquavion going to move on as well. So that's,
yeah,
I'm content with the season, I think.
Yeah, no, I think for me, and this is something which is kind of a rule for me, which I've said multiple times. That if you're a Tuffy Talk follower, you know this. But basically, I just want that every year, besides if there's an outlier, then so be it. Such as for football 2019, an outlier. I want to see a gradual incline. I want to see us get better each year. Like move closer to our goal of winning an ACC championship, national championship, you name it. And obviously with Keatts, it's been kind of a tough. It's been kind of tough to set a bar just because those NCAA, violations that were getting reviewed, and so now for Keatts to have 2 years with that off of his radar, obviously you can easily tell that from last year to this year, there's been a great increase for sure. To go from last place in the ACC to sixth place in the ACC is a great movement upwards. Now, the immediate thing which immediately jumps out is, something that we've said multiple times, is that the ACC is absolutely wide open right now. There's a huge opportunity right now for NC State to really get back into the conversation, with the top of the ACC. And when you look at back at the season, you see a whole lot of positives. Like first of all, beating Duke at home by 24, that was incredible. Beating Virginia Tech on the road, which is that's a tough place to win, and to get a win there is great. Beating UNC at home, again, another great positive there as well. But then and then also too, Wake Forest, beating Wake Forest both times as well. Great wins.
Well.
Beating Miami at home, yes. But then also too, you kind of look at the negatives, such as losing at Miami in a game where we really let that game slip away from us. Getting swept by Clemson, is definitely, a tough negative too. And then, really just kind of the end of the season. So, like that Duke game at Duke, we really played 37 minutes of crap ball and then decided to get going in the last 3 minutes of the second half. And then the AC tournament was the exact microcosm of the whole season, where we came out really, really strong and just whooping on all cylinders against Virginia Tech, but then just laid an absolute egg in the second half against Clemson. So to me, it's just frustration, because we saw so much potential. And Greg, I do want to kind of get your thoughts, because I know that immediate thing is injuries. Obviously having Jack Clark injured for a good amount of the season, Dusan Mahorchik out for pretty much most of the 2/3 of pretty much the most of the part of the importance part of the season. And then Greg Gant was actually, believe it or not, healthy for most of the season, but then losing him for the Clemson game definitely hurt for sure. Do you think, how much of a excuse from a percentage perspective would you say that, okay, like this makes 100% sense of, why we struggled so much versus nah, this didn't really make much of an impact. Kind of a 0% of the reason why it didn't go as good as we thought it would or could.
Yeah, I I always think injuries are good. Every team has injuries, right? So that's the first and
Yes.
foremost. But the big thing is it was at a spot where we weren't exactly deep with both Gant and Mohorchik. We
Hmm.
had some
Mm-hmm.
depth there, but it wasn't enough, right? Because last year when we lost Manny, that you could have made the argument that that was why our season fell apart, and that was the same kind of
Yeah.
area of the court. But I think it really only like it did have an effect, but it didn't have an effect, and I'll kind of explain why. In games where we faced teams that had where they ran their offense through the low post, it showed, right? In the
Yeah.
games that were more guard
Absolutely.
oriented, we were fine.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, when it came down to the end of the season, when we played Clemson and we played Creighton, that's where it really showed its ugly head. So,
Yeah.
um, you were able to offset a lot of that, but again, when push came to shove, we were at a disadvantage. So I would say it played a part, but it wasn't the factor why we didn't win more games because again, we'll talk about it, but the games other than the Clemson outliers and those were just beat downs. I mean, there's no way to sugarcoat that. But
Yeah.
we were in the Creighton game. You had a couple more shots and you're okay. But it definitely played a part.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, I think for me, the first thing which I do got to give a shout out to is I want to really give a shout out to EB, who really stepped up and and really had to take on a much bigger role than he was probably thinking he was going to have to see this season. I'm sure he would have wanted to see as much of a role as he's seeing right now, but obviously going into the season with Dusan and DJ Burns, he probably thought, well, it's definitely going to be an uphill battle to see, minutes. But then all of a sudden, when Dusan was out for the season, it was like, all right, EB, here you go. Here's your opportunity. And,
I mean, he ended up playing 11 minutes a game, so that's
yeah,
a significant role.
Yeah.
absolutely. 100%. So, uh, to me, the biggest thing, which is a frustration piece, is the offense management and the personnel management, and then the offense. Obviously seeing the more vanilla scheme, it just seemed like my biggest worry is that with Keatts, we're getting what we kind of got from Gottfried, where basically with Gottfried and his teams would go as far as the talent would take him, meaning that basically, like for example, when we did our run with through LSU and through Villanova, Trevor Lacey had a lot to do with that team. Like Trevor
Mm-hmm.
Lacey really was a leader. He was an amazing player that really kind of piggybacked a lot of that team and really kind of helped move that team, you know, all the way through to the Sweet 16. And then obviously Godfrey's first year, I mean, he got handed a pretty daggone good team, handled by Lorenzo Brown. Yeah, Scott Wood. Yeah, CJ Leslie, Richard Howell, you name it. He got handed a
TJ
really
Ward, yeah.
talented team. Yeah. Well, TJ wasn't there
It's
yet.
his second year, that's right.
Next year.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of my biggest worry is that did we do really good this season just because Keatts did such a good job recruiting or did such a good job in the transfer portal to get a guy like Jaquel Joyner who could finally be the point guard / quarterback of our team, and also to getting Jaquavian to buy into this program, be that leader, and find a diamond in the rough in DJ Burns, who for a couple of games this season really came through big for us, but just was very inconsistent. And also too, I just don't think we ever really put him in a position to be the boomer bust, not necessarily to give him easy baskets. That's kind of another thought to it as well.
Yeah, for me, I thought that Keats pushed all the right buttons in the offseason with
For
bringing
sure.
in the transfer portal, bringing in the new assistant coaches.
Yes.
Now, conversely, I would say that he didn't push all the right buttons during game, or doing game management. It felt like at times, like you kind of mentioned, the offense at times seemed stagnant, where it felt like a lot of ISO ball in the games that we did have a lot of assists. It felt like those were coming off transition more so than running offense.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, that's kind of what Keats has been known for. I don't think that his offensive philosophy has changed, other than we did see a somewhat of a shift in bringing in more big men, where that was something that we hadn't been
Yeah.
doing the last few years.
Which thank
So
goodness.
yeah, right. So there's a lot of good there, but there's also like still some head scratching to go on. So
Mhm.
obviously the first 24 hours after a tough loss, especially in the NCAA tournament, there's a lot of emotion going on with the tweeting and just the raw emotion of things. But I think when you sit back and just look at things, I think, and I don't know, and I'm still, and if we had Macon on here right now, he would probably say that Keatts has got to go. I won't put that officially in his mouth, but it just feels like at times
No.
that's kind of been his thing. And he's, probably the most basketball junkie of us all. But I don't know. Like Keatts still hasn't won, and he's only won 2 ACC tournament games, and he has not won any tournament NCAA tournament games. So
Yeah.
I feel like the seat is getting warm.
Yeah.
If you have like the little heat seat thing on your car, I think you put it on the first
Yeah.
dial. I don't think you crank it all the way up, but you're definitely turning it on.
No, I mean,
yeah.
getting the program's record for most AC wins combined
that's
with
the other
finally getting
thing.
back to the tournament,
Right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
again, that's a great point because this was the most wins I think since the '74 team for conference wins. So,
Right.
what do you like?
Yeah.
Are you mad? Are you not mad?
Yeah.
It's so frustrating.
That's what I was saying. I think it's like you're content with the season.
I
You're
think
not
so.
obviously excited.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, it depends on what you value there. But yeah, it's not overly successful, but it obviously is a big improvement from where we were last year.
And let's not get it twisted. We were underdogs in both the games we lost in both the ACC tournament and in the NCAA tournament. So it's not like we went out and laid an egg because we were like the number 1 seed, right? We weren't Purdue.
Right.
I mean, you can imagine their fan base today, what they're saying.
True. Yeah. Well, especially with as one of the most talented players in all of college basketball and their center for sure. But
and Eddie.
Yeah.
ED.
Yeah. But I mean, and another thing too, which I like is that, we went 15-2 at home, which I mean, that's definitely a great positive, to really sell the fan base on saying, hey, if you come to, to a game at PNC Arena, you have a very high likelihood of seeing a win. I mean,
and with what we already just said, 2 of those one was against Duke and one was against Carolina. So you beat your rivals at home. So you're telling people
and Wake.
Come, and Wake. Good point. And Miami, that was another home win. So we already mentioned that. But those are 4 quality opponents that you brought into PNC, and you handled your business. Like if you're not coming out, and we've said this with whether you're donating money to the program or if you're just going to games. If you're not going by now, you're not going to go. Like, just stop looking for excuses and just say, "Hey, look, I'm not going to support him," and that's fine. Like, they would. I think athletic teams as a whole would rather you be all in or just get the heck out.
Well, and I mean, obviously, it's not what we want. I mean, but and I get what you're saying, where it's just like, listen, like at the end of the day, again, first of all, these guys work tireless hours. These players work their tails off, to be the best team, the best player they can be for NC State. So that's why to me, no matter what, no matter if you're happy with Keatts, not happy with Keatts, whether you're frustrated, if you're thrilled, you should be there to support these guys. Simple as that. I mean, because again, first of all, it's like, listen, hey, in basketball, it just takes one game. It takes one day. It takes one opportunity to turn the whole season around. It's one game at a time. So, kind of really looking back at this, at this class though. So obviously, kind of thinking about next year. So the only guys which are gone are Jarkel and Chase Graham and who? Who's the third one?
That's it.
That's I mean, for sure, that's not coming back is Joyner and Graham. I think they've exhausted all of their eligibility.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you kind of had to rank your guys on who you felt the most confident coming back, well, first of all, I have to, talk about DJ Burns. His Instagram post was very, very interesting. How he basically said how he, really kind of took some time to reflect on his performance against Creighton, how he wasn't happy with it, but how, we did some really great things this season. And, basically kind of making it seem like he feels like his job's not done here, which
it definitely seem that way.
And that goes in line with what he was telling folks at the Meet the Pack night a couple weeks ago, that his plan as of then was to pretty much come back. I mean, those were his exact words. I'm not even sugarcoating or paraphrasing or anything like that. He is, at that time he said that he planned on coming back. Now obviously things change. At this point too, he's not going to transfer, because if he does, he has to sit out. So that's really not an option. So it's either going pro or coming back to state. So that's really his only two options. So if I had to put a confidence meter on it, I would put 90-95% on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then along with that, you got Tucson, who is technically would be out of eligibility, but possibly has the opportunity for a medical red shirt. It seems like they're going to pursue it for him. I haven't heard anything.
Did you read his tweet, his Instagram post though? His Instagram post was pretty cryptic. So that one, I would put that at put that at 50-50, not as strong as DJ.
Sure.
If he even gets approved for a medical.
Well, I would
could just say no.
Yeah, what I meant was I would put it at 50-50. He puts in for the medical red shirt. Sure, and then obviously it's 50-50 if he gets it approved.
Yeah, true. Well, I mean, of course, I think if it was anybody else, the fact that, I mean, he meets all the requirements in terms of how many games he played compared to how many games he could have played. So, I mean, he meets all the requirements, but just because since he stayed in NCAA, it's 50-50.
Well, the other thing I would say too, I think he's like 25, 20.
Yeah,
he's old. Yeah, so he's older, so he might be ready to go make some money, especially being a Euro guy. There's plenty of leagues over there for him to go play in. So that would be why I'm only putting it at 50-50.
Yeah, understandable. Yeah, and so really kind of talking about for next season, because one thing which I want to go ahead and say is, again, the way the transfer portal is, I'm sitting here going, I mean, Big T's gone. I mean, if I had to be like, man, like if I could please have one guy back, like it'd obviously be T. But I mean, besides the guys that you feel confident about, I'm not really necessarily upset. Like if like Dusan does leave, I'm not necessarily upset just because of the fact that, again, the transfer portal is there. Like, it's like, well, I mean, if Dusan leaves, or if Casey Morcell leaves, or Jack Clark leaves, I mean, again, hey, go ahead.
I was gonna say, again, if they leave, they're leaving for pro. They're not leaving for another college, because they've already transferred once. So again, they're only leaving for pro ball.
Yeah. Before we continue, I want to take a quick second to tell you about our sponsor, Flatlands Jessup Insurance Group, that has your whole world covered, with agents in 5 offices throughout eastern North Carolina to help you decide how much coverage you need. Offering policies for home and auto, recreational vehicles, commercial, crop, health, life, and employee benefits. They are able to combine options to find a comprehensive solution that works for you. Flatlands Jessup protects the things you love, so you can spend less time worrying and more time enjoying them. Find them on Facebook and Instagram at Flatlands Jessup. You can also visit their webpage at www.flatlandsjessup.com. So please make sure to go and check them out. So again, I mean, to me, it's just, at the end of the day, I think we know for next season that Keatts needs to, the NCAA tournament needs to not be a goal for next. The NCAA tournament is not a goal for next year. The goal for next year, the goal for next year in my head is getting an ACC championship, which, I mean, I'm setting that as a goal, which obviously, if we make it to, the semifinals and make it the championship game, I'm pretty happy. But also too, like, getting to a Sweet 16, that should be the goal for next year. If Keatts does, I think, even just as well as he did this year, if he gets 12 or 13 ACC wins next year, but if he goes 23-11, just like this year, like if he does exactly what he did this year, next year, I'd say he's gone. I feel like that at some point we have to take the next step, and the opportunity has never been better.
Yeah.
I mean, you're definitely going to be probably replacing 35 points a game, losing Joyner and Terquavion. 35 points, and you're only averaging about 78, I think, is what we average. So almost a third of your points are leaving that you have to find a replacement for. And whether that's the Parker brothers, even though they're not related, but I'm calling them Parker brothers, coming in, and or like you were saying, the portal. And State's already out there. I've seen at least 3 or 4 players mention that that State's reached out to them. So it's it's alive and well, and we'll start seeing this come together. And I know you mentioned your goals And obviously those should be the goals, but they will also hinge on what you're bringing in, right, as far as talent.
Yeah.
And there were so many questions, but conversely, we brought so much in that was new. We didn't even know how this was going to play out and gel, and it turned out really well.
Mhm.
So I still think, even with you mentioning the goals, I still think regardless of what you bring in, that should be where your focus lies.
Yeah.
Well,
I I feel pretty confident, more confident going into this portal
Yep.
off season than I did last year.
Yep.
I mean, obviously it was hard to be confident after that season, but just knowing, basically last year he's had to replace the whole roster besides
Besides
T
Craven, yeah.
and
Marcel.
Morcell,
Yep.
but even he could have ended up not starting if the roster had shaken out a different way. But now he does have to replace a lot of scoring, but that's that's kind of a positive because the top guards in the portal see what T and Joyner did, especially Joyner
Yep,
being
good
a
point.
transfer coming in. It makes it an
Mhm.
attractive position.
True.
And just seeing how they did, like you were saying, getting them, it was great getting those guys, but the key was going to be see how they play together, see how they gel.
Yep.
And I have confidence that going into this offseason that if he can get the guys, Keatts will get them to gel.
Mhm.
And that's the one thing that we already know about Keatts is he's a great recruiter. I mean, he makes really good connections, and you always see the names that we're in the mix for. And like you said, Michael, having put tape, having stepped up in conference, where you were picked 10th and you end up 6th, and then making it into the tournament when you looked at last year after the season was over, the early bracketologists didn't even have us in the picture or in
No,
the
not even
conversation.
close.
So
Yeah.
so the fact that he did all of that, where there was no expectation for anything big, just goes to show that you can go play and be successful at state. Now, I will say he's got to go find somebody.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We've seen how this team plays without the point guard, a good point guard.
hmm
Good point guard is not really the right answer, but the right point guard. Uh,
Yeah.
we struggled
Yeah.
mightily. So
Mhm.
everything runs through that point guard in this system. So he has to go find the right person.
Yeah. Well, and again, at this point, it's that even though LJ Thomas and Breon Pass are sitting there, basically almost seeming like the obvious choice to kind of step in and take over, I'm saying at the end of the day that this upcoming season is so important for Keats that
No. Yeah.
you can't rely. Even though
No.
Breon showed a lot of great minutes, a
Yeah,
lot of
especially the last month of the season.
solid
Yeah.
potential, but I just don't see that
No.
elite point guard potential out of
No.
him.
Well,
So,
also think about this too. This was not Breon's first year in the system, right? So this is his second year. So you would have thought that you would have
Mhm.
seen more of a jump, and we really didn't see that.
mhm.
With that being said, though, I thought I think he's got a role on this team, and I think LJ is a
Oh yeah,
really good defender, and he hit some big
oh
shots
yeah.
at times.
Mhm.
His problem was he just didn't get the minutes. I think he averaged like less than 8 minutes a game. So,
Mhm.
Yeah.
but I thought he scored at a good clip given his minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. He was pretty efficient when he was in there.
And the crazy thing for me too is that I mean we actually had four different players that shot over 33% from the 3-point line. And Jaquavian shot 33.6. Jarkel shot 35.4. Casey Morcell, even though it seemed like he really slumped off, as the season went on, he still shot over 41% from the 3-point.
You're not going to
And
count
then
Jordan Snell at 100%.
yeah,
Mhm.
and then
I'll
LJ
throw him in there.
Thomas shot 9 for 19. So, which I mean,
That's
even
almost
still, that's
50%. Yeah.
I mean, that's still pretty
Yeah.
good, even though he only attempted 19 3-pointers. But I think that's really a big key right there is that you're losing to Quavian, you're losing Jarkel, and then if you lose Casey, then you got to find some 3-point shooters out there for
Yeah.
sure. That's definitely got to
Yeah.
be a focus.
I think Casey's coming back. If I had to, again, I would probably put him at 80% coming back. It just feels from
Really.
just talking,
Hmm.
just some of the things that he said around people. And he seems that he really likes Coach Keatts. And if
Yeah,
you look at the, right before the tournament, Coach Keatts doing that interview question at him. I don't know if you guys
Yeah.
saw that. And so I think they
yeah.
have a really good relationship, and that's half the battle in keeping these kids to stay around in the program is the relationship.
Mhm.
So if you've got that going on, that already puts you a leg up for retention.
True. And one thing too, I want to talk about is Isaiah Miranda, who's the 6'10", 6'11",
I think he's actually 7
center.
foot.
Is
think
he
he's
7 foot? Okay,
I think so.
7 foot. Center, but kind of more built as kind of a power forward, at least from what I've seen.
Yeah, he's more.
Uh,
He probably won't play the 5.
no.
Yeah, if you sneeze, he falls over.
Yeah,
uh,
yeah,
but I kind of see him as I mean, he has great potential, but just like we were
Yeah.
talking about, is that technically since he can go directly to pro now. So
yeah.
it's kind of a big question mark there. If that,
That
I
was
feel
just a
like
weird situation all around. Like,
I feel
I
like
think
it would actually surprise me if he left. I would actually be surprised.
I would
I think
say
we
the
should.
opposite.
You would be
Really?
surprised if he
I
doesn't
think
go.
he's gone. Yeah, I do. If you think about it, now granted, he did come in mid-season, so it wasn't like he was there for the whole season.
Yeah.
I,
Go ahead,
I
Michael.
think it's. I don't know. I think it's just different. I don't. I mean, yes, he's eligible for the draft, but I mean, if he wasn't even ready to get on the court for an ACC game, I don't see how he's draft eligible there,
So
or like eligible, obviously,
yeah,
but draft ready.
I'm not saying he
And
necessarily goes into the draft or goes pro. I could see him transferring.
Really?
okay,
Yeah,
Wow.
I mean,
yeah.
you just
I
don't
don't
know
know.
what these kids.
It feels.
You don't know what these kids think.
Yeah,
True.
yeah, but it also feels like, um, I don't think there was ever any intention of him playing this year.
Mm-mm.
It's in football we have January enrollees all the time. It's just with basketball, the season overlaps that January period, so it's like if he's enrolling and not playing, it's like, okay, what's going on?
Yeah.
But really, I think it's just getting him in the program a semester early. He'll be able to practice with the team all off season,
Yep.
and he'll be a step ahead of every other freshman coming in the fall. So
Yeah.
at least that's what I hope. Who knows? He could be gone tomorrow.
Yeah, and I haven't heard anything one way or the other, but I also know like people just do the wackiest things now. We don't know
Yeah.
if he gets an opportunity, whether that be pro or at another college. Maybe someone tampers and throws some NIL at him. We just don't know. So
Sure.
that's
Yeah.
because there was so much mystery around him. That's why I put him at 50-50, just because
Mhm.
you didn't get a feel one way or the other. So I'm just,
Yeah.
and the one thing I will say was Meet the Pack night. He was one of 2 players that wasn't there. So
Mhm.
take that for what it's worth. Could be nothing. It could be something, but it just, again, just more mystery around the situation.
Yeah, for sure. But definitely, I feel like for me, just to kind of wrap this up, looking at the Creighton game, I feel like that a lot of the frustrations that we have already mentioned, kind of you saw there with the game in terms of that. Finally, Traquavian stepped up, and a guy that 6 of 7 games through the AC tournament, he scored 15 points or less. Which, I mean, for a guy who was averaging close to 20 points a game, that's definitely not what you want to see, especially in the most important part of the season, which is the end of the AC season, obviously into the AC tournament. And so for him to go off for 32, but him being pretty much the only guy that was truly productive. Jarkel had 13, but he shot 18 shots in order to get those 13 points. So, and he was 0 for 5 from 3. And I know that you and Greg, when you and I did the watch party, we talked about that one point with like 4 or 5 minutes left where we got the block on the 7-footer, and we went in transition. Jarkel caught it at the diagonal corner of the 3-pointer and at the wing, and had an opportunity to really hit a 3 to really just take the
Change the
roof off
momentum.
the place, just change the momentum, and just couldn't quite get it done. And
it rimmed out.
It just, to me, that just kind of shows that once again, it's like missed opportunities, but also too that I just feel that overall that we just got to find a way to do a better job of getting our players in a position to have easier opportunities, more easy opportunities than hard opportunities. Like give players opportunities to make easy layups or make easy, with space, mid-range shots than these floaters from basically just inside of the 3-point line, or having 2 guys defend it off of you and you're trying to lay it off the glass. Those are tough shots, and so that's really kind of my biggest thing is we just got to figure out a way to do that, whether that's holding on to a guy like Isaiah Miranda, bringing in more guys that have length, but also can that also are fast. I don't know. That's Keatts' job to figure out. But I mean, to me, that's kind of my thing when I look at this box score. That's just the most frustrating thing.
Well, for me, and I know we want to wrap this up in the next few minutes. T was just feast or famine. Looking here at his last 5 games, 8 points, 10 points, 30 points, 11 points, 32 points. When he was on, he was amazing. But with that being said, and you could look at how many 3-pointers he made throughout the season, but it was not at a great percentage. He threw up a ton of shots.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to be able to figure out, and I know this really isn't Keatts' system, and I know the whole dichotomy of basketball has changed where they like the 3-point shot over the 2-point shot. But here's the thing. The 2-point shot most times will be a much higher percentage shot. And so
Absolutely.
like you'll shoot more of those, but you're putting in points. And when our guards were on this year, we were unstoppable. But again, not when you come out not knowing that the result of your game relies on 2 guys shooting the ball at a high clip, that's putting a lot of eggs in one basket, where I would like to be able to spread that out and feel confident that, we don't have to shoot a 3-pointer every time we come down the court. Because here's the thing, and you saw this in a lot of games where the games got away late, we were forcing a lot of threes just to try to climb back in games. Mm-hmm. So if there was a way to be able to, like the women, and we'll do a women's preview, or excuse me, a recap. I love the way Wes works inside out, and I wish somehow we would kind of take that philosophy on with Keatts and the men's side as well.
And the one thing which I'll add before I give you, Michael, let you kind of give us your final thoughts, is one of my another frustration I have as well is like kind of talking about DJ Burns, is that I feel like that a lot of times when we would get him the ball, he would have the ball for way too long to where it gives opportunities.
He'd get the ball too far out.
Too far out, and then basically if he's having to dip his shoulder, 8 times in order to get, decently close to the basket, just one of those can be an easy, okay, times like the defender times it just right and bumps off, and then boom, charge foul, and so it just again just goes to, once again, you're putting DJ in a position to make a really tough play, but also be really lucky. Hopefully the defender doesn't time it perfectly, so that way the ref doesn't get a charge call on him. So
yeah, I'm with you, Leighton. Give it to him on the block, or give it to him one step off the block. Let him make 1 to 2 moves and put his ball in, instead of having 7 steps backing up into the guy. And then it just becomes a man-on-man will sandwich. And then, he turns over, and then the guy falls over because he's probably 30 pounds lighter than DJ.
At least, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Go ahead, Michael. What's your final thoughts, man?
Yeah. Well, just I guess it's on the offensive piece. I've never really had a issue with Keatts' offense. I mean, he's been top. I think it's top 6 in scoring every year in the ACC, including last year when we won 4 ACC games.
But Michael, I would counter that because our defense leads to some of those easy points, right?
Yeah.
So I would like to see the half court comparison.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure, and especially. And part of that is because defense has always been Keatts' weak spot, so you have to score a lot. But the thing I think would help a lot is having bigger guards. For as good as Jarkel was, he was 6'1", maybe 6'2".
Mm-hmm.
T was 6'4", but he was 165 pounds. If you get some bigger guards who can absorb the contact better, because T at the end of the season, and I think some of that had to do with the UNC game and taking that fall, but he was just always falling away from the defenders when he would drive to the hoop, and he would do it all the time.
Yeah,
he was always going to the rim, but he was always falling away. Yeah, and you're not going to get it falling away. No. So that's just another note that I would like to see in the transfer portal this offseason. Get some good guards, and especially if they can be maybe in that 6'3" to 6'5" range. Get some bigger guys in there. I think that would help out a lot.
100%. Yeah. Also, again, definitely hoping that we can continue to see this upward trend here for next season. Definitely, definitely a first step. I think, again, I could speak for all of us when we say that we want Keatts to be the guy, to be successful. We don't want to have to start all over again. But at the end of the day, we have expectations as for this program and this team that we want to get back to winning ACC championships, competing for them, to competing for Sweet 16s, you name it. And so within the day, if Keatts ends up proving that maybe he's not the guy to do it, then at the end of the day, we've seen from Boo Corrigan, from what he's done, over the last month or two, that at the end of the day, he'll pull the trigger if he has to. So good for that, and definitely looking forward to that. But again, I want to give you a huge shout out to Wolfpack Nation again for supporting these guys. As the team really started to show the potential that Keatts even said that they had to earn, then the fans started coming, and the support was there. PNC was a fantastic, specifically against the UNC game.
The last two games were sellouts.
Awesome. Last two games were sellouts for sure, and they were spectacular. And so let's keep that going into next season. But always, again, if you haven't already, again, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any new Tuffy Talk content. Hit this like button if you enjoyed this this video, and also to follow us Tuffy Talk now on Twitter and Instagram. Thank you so much. We'll see y'all for the women's basketball recap. Go Pack.